All right, so now we're moving on to something that you've probably seen before, so we're going to go pretty quick through it, and we'll get lots of practice of it during class. So we're going to do long division with polynomials. And remember, when using polynomial long division, before you divide, you have to make sure that the polynomial is written in standard form, and it has to be from greatest to least exponents. All the placeholders with a 0 as the coefficient are used. That means, like, if you don't have an x squared in your polynomial, then you have to put a 0 in for that x squared. You have to account for it, and we'll have an example of that in just a second. So the best way to practice this is to just get started with it. So we're going to start out with x cubed minus x squared minus 14x plus 4, and we're going to divide it by x squared minus 5x plus 6. All right, so I'd like to tell you that this is short and sweet and nice and simple, and I guess it is because it only works one way, but it's easy to get messed up on this. So we're going to take it real slow on the first one. The way that this works is you ask yourself, what do I have to do to this first term to get this term? And so to get an x cubed, when you have an x squared, you have to multiply it by x. So that's what we're going to do. But now we're going to take this x and multiply it by each term in our divisor here. So when we do that, we're going to get x times x squared, which is x cubed, x times negative 5x, which is minus 5x squared, and then x times positive 6, which is plus 6x. Now the tricky part to this is that we want to subtract these. So all the signs have to change. So we're going to subtract all of this line. So that means minus. When we subtract this negative, that means plus. And when we subtract this positive, that means minus. So we're going to add straight down now. X cubed minus x cubed goes away. Negative x squared plus 5x squared is 4x squared. Negative 14x minus 6x is negative 20x. And then we bring down this last term, just like when you do long division with numbers. And then we start over again. We ask ourselves, okay, what do I have to do to this first term, this x squared, to get a 4x squared? And the answer is, I have to multiply it by positive 4. So I put a positive 4 up here. So now I'm going to do 4 times x squared, which gives me my 4x squared. Then I'm going to do 4 times negative 5x, which gives me my negative 20x. And then I'm going to do 4 times positive 24, which is going to give me plus 24. Now, just like division, I want to subtract these. So I'm going to subtract this whole row. So minus, change the sign, change the sign. So now I have 4x squared minus 4x squared goes away, which that's what we want to happen every step. If you're getting something in this space, you're doing it wrong. So negative 20x plus 20x, well, that's nice. Those just go away too. But now I have 4 minus 24, which gives me a negative 20. And I don't have anything left to bring down. So that's my remainder. But it's not that simple in how we write it. We're going to write our answer now. We did x cubed minus x squared minus 14x plus 4 divided by x squared minus 5x plus 6. That's what we just did. Our answer is x plus 4, but we still have this minus 20. So it's minus 20 over x squared minus 5x plus 6. Okay, because our remainder is not just 20, it's 20 out of this. And I know that sounds confusing, but hopefully you remember doing this, and we can talk about it more in class, but for now, just worry that whatever you get for your remainder, you write it over the divisor, and you tack it on to the end of what you get up here when you do your division. So that's our answer. So let's check out the next one. I got a feeling it's going to go a little smoother. All right, so we're going to do x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 1. And we're going to divide that by x minus 1. Okay, notice x cubed minus 1 doesn't have an x squared and it doesn't have an x, so I had to put in the 0x squared and the 0x. Those are placeholders. If you don't put those in, this doesn't work. So what do we do to this x to get x cubed? Well, we multiply it by x squared. So now I'm going to do x squared times x, get x cubed just like I want, and x squared times negative 1 gives me negative x squared. Now I want to subtract, but I want to subtract the whole row. So I'm going to multiply all this through by a minus. So minus plus. Okay, x cubed minus x cubed goes away like we want. 0x squared plus x squared is x squared. And I'm going to bring down my plus 0x. So then I say to myself, what do I have to do to this x to get an x squared? Well, I've got to multiply it by x. So x times x squared, x times negative 1, negative x. Multiply the whole thing through by a minus, so minus, plus. Draw my line. X squared minus x squared goes away. 0x plus x is x. And I'm going to bring this negative 1 all the way down. So minus 1. And then I ask, what do I need to do to this x to get an x? And the answer is multiply it by 1. So now I do 1 times x and 1 times negative 1. Then I come through here with a minus sign and I switch every sign. Add it up. X minus x is 0. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So that is my remainder. I have a remainder of 0. So my answer is x squared plus x plus 1. Remember, if my remainder is 0, I don't need to tack it on to the end of it. And that's what we're hoping for when we do these, is that we get a remainder of 0. So that's it. Short and sweet. Come in tomorrow ready to practice this.